Welcome to another episode of the Lone Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Clemenson, and today we have Sion Cousins. Sion, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Mate, what haven't you done in the sporting world? We got what was it, New South Wales squash champ? Is that right? Competed New South Wales touch footy. A lot of competitions. Run me through the list, quick.
Well, before I run you through the list, typically what I've done is I've just picked the most niche sport I could find. So then what you can do is you can elevate to the top a hell of a lot quicker.
That makes sense now.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. I always wondered why squash.
Played squash my entire life. But yeah, in 2022, I was at the New South Wales Squash Open and came second. I played the Australian Open doubles up in Queensland in 2022. Haven't played squash since. They were sort of my retirement ones, but played my entire life. Played touch football for New South Wales, played the New South Wales Open, State Cup, sorry. Olympic weightlifting, so I went to nationals for Olympic weightlifting and then sort of got into long distance running after that. But yeah, I've always played sport my entire life and jumped between a few different sports. But like I said, the most important thing is that it's a very niche sport. So I think pickleball or something like that might be on the cards next.
I love it. And layering that with, the other bit that blows my mind is just how many businesses you've scaled and sold. Some good, some not so good. But, from my experience with you, it's been, incredible what you've built as an entrepreneur as well. So serial sportsmanship, serial entrepreneur. And today we want to jump in. We're going to do long form. I'm going to cut this one up into 3 episodes because there's so much to cover. But the value that Sion brings with the mindset work is phenomenal. I've done some work personally with him, and I've even brought him in to work with our wider business. So everyone listening today is going to get such value out of it. There's also going to be an amazing story in there about his race that he's just completed in the Sahara Desert, which was unbelievable. So I'm going to jump into it. So I looked at your LinkedIn profile. I help people realize their goals and aspirations, all driven by happiness. I love that line. Because, there's counseling, where, as you describe it, there's counseling where people are at -5 and that you've got to get them to 0. And then there's the counseling you do, which is, I've got no reason to be unhappy, but I'm just feeling stuck, or I just need what's next for me. And that's where you come in and really help coach and push people along. And I think it's such a nice little niche. So my first question is, how'd you land there? What got you to that point in counseling?
I suppose for me, it was a lot of practical implements that I've felt throughout my life. So I've had lots of externally driven goals placed on me, whereas I thought that maybe I wanted to buy a house, or I thought that maybe I wanted to make X amount of money. And I found that a lot of the things that were externally motivated didn't really make me truly happy. I think for a lot of people, their number one goal should be to improve their happiness. I don't think you can become happy, but you can become happier. Yep. So there's no destination. You can't arrive there and then sort of feel, I'm happy now. So why that's in my bio is that a lot of the goal setting that I work for people, or aspirations that I want people to come up with, is driven by happiness. Is this going to tie to one of your core values that intrinsically make you happy? Or is this an externally motivated goal that maybe your manager, your wife, your husband, your family have put on you? So one of the first things that I do with all my clients is find what truly makes them happy. And then we try attach some aspirations or goals to that happiness, because they're the ones that I know that get you out of bed in the morning. They're the ones that people go, how's he so motivated? You're motivated by happiness and becoming happier. It's a hell of a lot easier. So that's why in counseling, which is my background, sort of is coming from counseling, it's not necessarily about attaching it to happiness, but for me, and sort of the amalgamation of coaching, sports, business, and counseling, I find that happiness is at the core of it.
I totally resonate with that, because we did some work together earlier in the year, just one-on-one, and it was me basically saying, I'm happy. I've achieved a lot. I'm exactly where I thought I'd be in life. And for a lot of people, I'd look at myself 5 years ago, I'd look at myself and go, well done. You're exactly where you want to be, maybe even further along. But there's still you can't quieten that whole what's more, what's next. And what really I thought was great, the work we did, was that finding the core values. And that isn't an easy task. That was weeks and weeks of work. And I struggled because trying to work out what my core values are. You think you know what they are until you put pen to paper and you go, oh, fuck, that's not my goal. That's not my core. That's my mum. Or, shit, that was my dad. Or you start seeing it. And when you scratch deeper, and the way you got it out of me was brilliant. You know, it was very much not even about me. Like, who do you idolise? And, you know, making me look at various things to realise, oh, man, I do really value that, or I do like that, or I gravitate to this. And that was useful, really, really bloody useful. So I love that approach. And I think if anyone listening at home hasn't gone through that exercise, it's genuinely great, because the outcome for me has been decision-making. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you were trying to loop it back to me, is like, when you know who you are, when you know what your core values are, making decisions based on your happiness outcome is easy.
And it makes it easier to say no to things, because a lot of people haven't spent the time to understand what truly makes them happy. And I like that you brought it up. And one of the questions that I typically ask people is, who do you admire and why do you admire them? And then that's a really simplistic way to figure out what you value, because there'll be someone like an ex-school teacher, you know, that took you under their wing, who was very empathetic and very encouraging, and then you go, you know what, I really like that about that person. And then you ask yourself, well, why do you like that? And it's, well, I like helping other people. Then it's like, okay, we're going down this path now. Now I'm going to realize. So if you're in a position where in your life you haven't got the ability to help someone else, but it's one of your core values, that's when people start to feel stuck or sick of their job, sick of what they're doing. They're like, I struggle to find motivation. In my opinion, you're struggling to find motivation on something. It's because you don't really know where you're going. You haven't got an idea of your core values. You don't know how to attach anything to them. So you're sort of shooting in the dark. Once you have a very clear indication of how you make yourself happy, what you value and what you admire in people and how you can become that person, all of a sudden, the things it's really easy to say no to. Alcohol, easy to say no to when you admire someone that spends the Saturdays and Sunday mornings with their kids. You know, you see them down running on the beach, you know, whereas all your friends want to go out for nice dinners. You don't really value fine dining and beautiful wine and whiskey, but you get caught up in that because it's your circle of influence. So one of the best things you can do is just figure out who you are, what you admire, what makes you truly happy, intrinsically happy, that warm, fuzzy feeling, not the immediate happiness of buying the new watch, buying the car, buying the clothes. You know, that's very short-term lived.
Excuse me. And that's where social media has really made it difficult for people, because you see there is the Joneses effect. Like, I see my friends doing this, therefore I should be doing that. And it has nothing to do with what you want. I see so many of my mates do so much travel and whatever, and that does excite me, but it's not a big one for me. Actually, just showing up for my kids I get the most enjoyment. Like, going out on a Saturday and having fun with them, like stupid fun. Like, we're going to go and do a thing on the weekend at Bounce. I've never been there before, and they're so excited, and that makes me excited, you know? The big kid in me gets excited. Man, that's so simple.
Yep. And now it's easy to understand what you do with your weekends. Now it's easy to understand what you can aspire to. You know, you obviously admire people that are good parents, that love spending time with their kids. So understanding that about yourself is the first thing that I do with anyone that I work with, is get that out of them. And to your point before, sometimes that's weeks of work. That's lots of question. That's lots of soul searching. It's not something that you do in 40 minutes. What is the ratio of people who do this exercise with you, the core values, that just nail it? They're like, Jesus, this person really knows who they are and what they're about, versus more like me, like, I think I know, but let's have a look at it. Oh, wow, I didn't really know. I hadn't committed to agreeing with myself that that's what it's about. Yeah, look, everyone's different. But if you were to ask me how many people I've spoke to that understand their core values straight off the bat, and when I ask them, they can recite it to me immediately, like, it's close to 0%. It's only the people that have sought advice and been taught how to understand those things. So say, for example, when I was studying, and you're surrounded by counsellors and psychologists and stuff like that constantly talk about these things. So you constantly ask yourself these questions. You're not only working with your client on trying to get it out of them, but you're always reminding yourself of that. So you go home at night and you think about it for yourself. So typically in that vein, a lot of them understand their core values. In everyday life, in everyday work, I would say it's close to 0% unless they've really sought help to try to figure it out.
Interesting. And I know that, sorry, was it just kind of mid-COVID, 2021 was a pretty tough spot for you, wasn't it? You've talked about that publicly, so I'm happy to bring that up. And I think that's where this core values really helped you out. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so for me personally, what happened was ever since I left school, the world just kept getting better and better. So real estate prices went up, stock market went up, everything was booming. And I was self-employed essentially straight out of school. I've been self-employed since I was 20. So my businesses kept getting better and better, and I just hadn't faced any adversity. And then in COVID, what happened to me was that all my businesses essentially went to zero. I was in travel, I was in the fitness industry.
That's no fun.
Yeah, so it all went to zero, and it was the first time that I really faced adversity. And then that was a big eye-opener for me. So what I did is I went soul-searching, and I wanted to understand a little bit more about my psyche and why I couldn't deal with adversity as well as I thought maybe I could. And that's what led me to go down psychology and counselling,
right? Just
to get an understanding for myself. And then that's when the doors opened up, and I went, oh, this is where I really need to be. I really resonate with a lot of the stuff that I'm learning. I can see the value in it. And as well, I think that I can have a unique approach to this, being self-employed for so long, being an athlete in multiple different disciplines. It was like I can take those learnings, apply it to counselling, and then I could come up with my own unique approach. So COVID definitely sort of changed the trajectory of where I was going, for sure.
Okay. And what were some of the key parts that came out the back of it? Because I've only known you since COVID. Like, that's when we first crossed paths. And I think I've only ever seen you coming out of that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I saw you going into it.
Yeah.
I think maybe I had a little bit of a hunch because the whole world was in that place, but we're also distracted, right? Doing our own thing. I've only seen you come out and launch, and it seems that you've gone way past where you were before. Like, you've since then sold a business quite successfully. I think it was probably the best time to sell that business. And you've done some incredible things with your life since then as well.
So essentially what happened to me was that I got a really clear picture of my core values.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what direction I wanted to go in then. So then it made it really easy to make decisions, like selling the business that you're referring to that I sold. I had that for 13 years. So that was something that I had a lot of, I suppose it was quite nostalgic, that business. I grew up from nothing, but I knew exactly where I wanted to go because I knew my core values, and it didn't align anymore. So the decision to sell became a lot easier. The decision to, and maybe we speak about it, do some of the events that I did. Yeah. I realized that I love adventure. I love learning. I love helping people. So every decision I made from there on after was based around these three things. Yeah. So it made decisions a hell of a lot easier to make.